Hello, welcome to your Math 120 online class. This is an orientation video to kind of get you an idea of how the class is structured, where everything is organized, and just give you a nice quick introduction, well, quick in quotation marks maybe, as to how to get started in this class and how to be successful. First things first. In order to start the class, you have to watch this video in its entirety. And in order to make sure that you've done that, there's some video tracking software that's happening behind the scenes here, but that only starts if you had entered your name and email address into the beginning of this video. So there should have been a window that pops up asking for your name and email. If you did see that and you dismissed it, there's no way I'm going to find out that you watched this video. So stop the video, restart it, enter your name and email. You can use a fake email if you want, because the only thing that I am checking against when grading videos is your name. And make sure you're using your name that is provided to TTC. If you go by a nickname, I'm not going to find you. If, anything that's deviating from the name that's in the computer system I'm not going to find you. So just make sure you enter your name. You can put a fake email, whatever, restart the video, and then there should be a blue button that says, watch the video and take quizzes, and a black button that says just watch the video. Make sure you don't hit that black button, because I'm not going to find out if you're watching it or not. Okay, so just to make sure you have, I'm going to show you a quiz. Okay, you should have seen a quiz and answered the question there. Doesn't matter if you get it right or wrong. The important thing is that you saw that quiz and you entered an answer. Now, here's how the video grading works. When you start the video, a timestamp is sent to a server along with your name and the email address you provided. Then, when you get to a quiz, another timestamp is sent. And the difference between those two timestamps is the amount of time that you watched the video between those two portions. And if you have, say, like 5 minutes between the beginning and the first quiz, and you watched it, and you skipped and jumped a whole bunch of stuff and only watched it for like 8 seconds. 8 seconds is what's going to be reported to me, and you're not going to get credit for the video. So just make sure you watch, each section between the quizzes in its entirety, and you're going to be fine. I'll talk about the videos a little bit later and go into a little bit more detail as to, how to absolutely make sure you're getting credit for the videos and whatnot. But a couple things I want to talk about first is this is an orientation for all the Math 120 online classes. And so therefore I'm going to be very general, to kind of give you an idea of how things run. I'll post an announcement in my class that gives you a little bit more specifics for my particular course. There's not much. There's very little. We've all kind of chosen to run the course basically the same way. Now, another thing that you're going to need to know, and I'm going to just talk about this early on, get it out of the way, is for this course, you need to be using either the Ti83 or the Ti84. There's a lot of videos that you're going to be watching for this class, and they're all designed to teach you how to use, the 83 and 84 in this course, because that's just the, basically the standard ones that we use for all math courses. Neither one has an advantage over the other. If you can find an 83 cheaper than an 84, go with that. That's perfectly fine. But you absolutely need to have one of the two. Now, if you're using an 84, there might be a different menuing system. And to make sure that everybody sees the exact same thing, for 84 users only, here's what you need to do. I'm going to bring up my 84 and I'm going to show you step by step how to fix the calculator. Okay, so here's my 84, And if you press the mode button, actually tell you what, let me bring up the large screen. Here we go. So you can see exactly, what it looks like. If you press the mode button, it'll take you into this menu where there's a whole bunch of settings within the calculator. It's on the second page of the screen that you're looking for. So if you just keep scrolling down till you get to the second page, there's two options that you need to change. There's one that says Math Print and Classic. This is a choice. You have one or the other. By default, on the 84, Math Print is chosen. Now, Math Print is nice. It makes fractions look like fractions. It makes square roots look like square roots, and that sort of thing. It's very nice. The problem is all the videos were recorded with 83s because most people have the 83. If everybody had the 84, I would absolutely just use the Math Print and go that way. So you're going to want to turn that off just to make sure you're seeing the exact same thing that I'm seeing when you're going through the video examples. All right, next there is what's called stat wizards. And you're going to want to turn those stat wizards off. And again, it's just so you're seeing the exact same thing that I'm seeing. They are helpful. I don't have any disagreeing with that. And if you get to the point where you understand the 83 system pretty well and you want to try the stat wizards and see, how they can help you, no problem with that whatsoever. It's just when you're first learning it, you're going to want to see the exact same screen that I'm seeing when I show you, through the examples and things. So if you make those two changes right now, you're good for the remainder of the class, unless you take your batteries out or anything like that. Okay, now to get started in D2L, the best place to go is your student portal. So my.tridentech.edu. This will be the only place that you need to log in. And if you have any trouble with your username and password, those are going to be, there's links to how to find those here. And if you have trouble, click here and then you'll get help. All right. So enter your username and password. I would definitely click that this is a private computer, especially if you're at home, just because this public computer option times you out after 15 minutes. The private computer will time you out, not for 8 hours. All right, so I'm going to enter my username and password. Okay, and log on. Whoops. Okay, the problem I was doing, I was typing my email address here, not simply my username. Sorry about that. So yeah, you're just going to put your username here and not your full email address. All right, then hit log on. And you'll get into the portal eventually. Here we go. What you're looking for here is access my courses D2L. Two of the most important things you'll have on your portal. Your email is listed here. You may have to enter your credentials. If this is the first time you've logged in, just enter your username and password. Same one you just used to get into the portal. Enter that again, and then you'll have access directly to your email address, which is really nice. But D2L is what you want here. Access my courses. Click that. No more username and passwords. Although, just as a side note, if the portal ever goes down, you can use the address onlcourses.tridenttech.edu, and it'll take you to a login page where you can get into D2L without using the portal. So it's kind of nice. Sometimes the portal goes down. It's not often, but on the off chance, you can still get in. You would use the same username and password. Okay. Now you're at the course home, or the home page for D2L. You haven't entered any of your courses yet, so you just need to scroll down until you see the list of your courses. And let me get the right semester. Spring 2016. There I am right there. Okay. So I'm going to click on that, and that's going to take me into the course homepage, where now everything I access is specific to this particular course. Okay, now the important things off of the course homepage, the course news. This is where your instructor is going to make announcements about the class. I already have an announcement indicate, for you to read. Basically says make sure you watch the orientation video, blah, 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 blah. You can read the whole thing. And it also mentions the NA date, which I will talk about later. Of course, for further semesters, this will be a different date, but that's only for spring 2016 that's accurate. And let's see. The rest of the things here are basically not used all that much. In the updates, you might see it telling you, hey, you've got some quizzes available, you have some discussions you haven't read, some things like that. Upcoming events in the calendar, it may indicate here, but you can get to all that stuff separately. I am going to switch my role to a student. You wouldn't have to do this, obviously, just so you're seeing the same thing I'm seeing. All right, everything, sorry, these links right here are important. Course home would bring you right back to where we are. And then course materials is going to be where most of the time you're spending. You can get to the calendar from here. And I don't have anything set up in the calendar as of yet, but you'll see, class begins on the 11th, NA deadline the 17th, exam 1 ends, whenever, blah, blah, blah. So you'll see events there when you log in for the first time. Competencies, we don't use that in this class. The content is really important. That's where most of the stuff in the class is. So if we click on content, you can access pretty much everything in the course. The way it's organized is through this set of links over here. You have the class materials, which right now all I have in there is the syllabus, and I'm going to go through that in detail in just a minute. The class is organized into modules, so each module has a test at the end of the module. Each module has a set of lessons based off of, a part of the textbook that we would be going over. But since we're not really using the textbook all that much, or at all, I've just, instead of saying, chapter 1, section 2, because we skip around a lot in the textbook, I thought modules and lessons made a little bit more sense, because you just need to go through lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, until you get to the end of the lessons, and then you have an exam. So pretty straightforward. Okay, and each lesson has a video that describes, everything you need to learn about it. So you click on the video lesson, it'll bring it up. And again, when you first hit play, you're going to get this window, which has you enter your first, last name, and your email address. Just make sure your first and last name are correct. I don't care what you put for email. As long as it has an @ symbol, it'll accept it. So let me just watch the video and take the quiz. Oops. I'll mute that. Okay, so video comes up. You'll watch through the entire video. I'm going to skip around just so we can, see how this all works. Eventually, you'll come to a quiz. You'll take the quiz. I'm just answering randomly here. I don't see how I did. Oh, not so well. Not a very good guesser. Okay, so anyway, you take the quiz, and then you move on with the video. It starts in the next part of it until you get to the very end. There'll always be a quiz at the very end. And like I said, the video is sending a timestamp every time you get to a quiz. So whenever I take the quiz, the difference between the timestamp of this quiz and the quiz before it is how long I watched that segment. Let me pull up a different video that has some calculator examples at the end. Let's see. Yeah, this one will be good. I want you to see those as well. And I'm actually going to dismiss the video, the quizzes inside the video. Sorry about that. Because I just want you to see at the very end what the quizzes look like. Sorry, the calculator examples look like. Okay, so if I jump ahead, there we go. All right, so I've got the calculator on screen here, and entering data into the calculator, you'll see everything that I'm doing in detail. I'll be explaining it as well, but of course I just muted the video. And then over here, I'll put the results of any of the calculations over here so you can kind of see, the example problem and the calculator all at once, and trying to mimic the experience of the classroom as much as possible with that. All right, so obviously some videos are short. The 1.1 was like 10 minutes, and then this one's an hour and 5 minutes. So some videos are longer than others, and that just means there's more to talk about in that section. So the overall, there's probably 23, 24 hours of video, somewhere in there. But that's still a whole lot better than 45 hours of coming to a physical class. So, you kind of have that advantage. Then the other thing about it is you can always, pause and rewind if you didn't hear something exactly correct, and that's perfectly fine. Pausing and rewinding, no problem at all, because when you get to that next quiz and that timestamp is sent, if your total time watching a section of a video is 7 minutes, when the total time is supposed to be 5, that's fine. You can, watch it for 2 hours if you want, and as long as you have at least 5, you're going to get credit for the video. All right, let's get back out of here. After each video is a set of homework, and these are called quizzes here. And it's just because D2L calls them quizzes, like when we don't have any way of changing that. It's homework, okay? You'll open it up, and it will be started here, okay? It'll be similar to the homework that's from the textbook. You'll answer the first lesson and the second lesson, I think, are multiple choice questions, but most of the quizzes are fill in the blank, where you use your calculator to kind of get the answer from the data and then enter the result. The ones that are multiple choice generally randomize. The ones that are fill in the blank don't randomize. And so that way, you guys can more easily discuss the problems if you get stuck with anything. Okay, so once you finish homework quiz, and you can do these as many times as you want, and the only thing that's going to get recorded in the grade book is the highest of each one. So if you take the 1.1 quiz and the first time you only get one question right, no big deal. Take it again, and if you get 3 right, in the grade book it's going to say 3 out of 6. If you take it a third time and you get 5 right, in the grade book it'll say 5 out of 6. Take it a 4th time and you get all 6 right, it's going to record 100%. So it doesn't matter if you take it 50 times or 1 time, only the highest grade is recorded. So you can take it as many times as you like. What I would recommend is writing the questions down on paper, writing the answers that you used on paper, and that way when you take it again, the ones that you had right, you can just input those answers, and then the ones you have wrong, those are the ones you can work on, and only attempt those again, basically, until you get them all correct. And one thing I want to mention is when you first log in, you're actually not going to see anything but the class materials. The class materials right now is just the syllabus that I have listed. I'll also have a link to the orientation video as well. but the class materials is all you're going to see. You're not going to see module 1, 2, 3, or 4. And there's reason for that. Module 1 doesn't open until you complete the orientation video and the contact information quiz. I've got it set up that way because I want to get that information before you can actually start the course. I want to make sure you know how the course runs before you start the course. That's what the orientation is all about. And module 2 doesn't show up until module 1 is finished. You know, it's like, what would be the point? You need to have a grade on the module 1 exam before the module 2 stuff shows up. So, and the course kind of opens up to you in that way. The idea, though, is, you know, if you want to work fast in the course and get done early, you absolutely can. The dates are for the tests are the last date that you can take things. If you want to be doing these, you know, if you want to take all 4 tests and everything in the first 2 weeks, you're absolutely fine to do that. There's no problem with that at all. Okay, let's get into the syllabus and start going over the information there, because that's going to be the important stuff for the course. Now, this is my syllabus, but like I said, multiple instructors use the same class. You'll see your instructor's name and contact information here on the first page of the syllabus. So let's skip down to the stuff that's common to everyone. All right, so first off is just the, you know, the boring stuff from the school. Catalog description, prerequisite. The textbook, if you'll notice, it's listed as optional. The book that we use is a custom edition, and I've listed for you the ISBN number. I think the only way you can get the custom edition is through our bookstore, but it's the same information as the non-customized edition. The custom edition just says, okay, like, for instance, we don't use chapter 12 or 13. Let's not print those and save the students money. So if you want to buy, you know, from a different source other than the bookstore, you'd need to buy the full text, which is elementary statistics using the Ti84 Plus calculator. Currently, as of 2016 spring, it's in the 4th edition. But, you know, the editions really only matter in terms of the homework problems. You're going to be doing all your homework, you know, through the quizzes in D2L, so it really doesn't matter which edition you buy. So if you want to buy an old one, you'll probably save a lot of money that way. The textbook portions that we cover are listed here by module, and so just for reference sake, the core curriculum competencies, you can read through those and enjoy all you like. And let's get down to the grading system. So the grading system works like this. This says unit exams, but it should say module exams. Sorry about that. There's an oversight. I changed everything to the word module recently, and occasionally I find a spot where I forgot to change it. Anyway, so the exams that you take, which are all online, make up 35% of your grade. The homework that you take, which is online, makes up 10% of your grade. The videos makes up 5%. And then your midterm and final are 25% of your grade each. Those are both taken on campus in a proctored environment. Your final grades will be awarded according to the college-wide grading scale. 91 to 100 is an A, 81 to 90 is a B, and so forth. Anytime you finish a quiz, the grade is automatically exported into your grade book in D2L. So you'll see it there automatically. Anytime you finish a test, there's a delay. And the delay is, I want to review the test before the grade shows up in the grade book, because sometimes you'll enter a typographical error. And if you enter a typographical error on a 10-point problem, well, that could bring you from, you know, a B to a C. You know, and if you do that on a couple of problems, you could get a much lower score than initially than what you actually earned. So in order to kind of, make sure you have the correct score before, you get to see it, I want to take a look at it first. So with your quizzes, you'll see the grade automatically. With the test, you'll see it in about a day or two, kind of depending on it, whether it's during the week or the weekend, and so forth. Right, the final exam, it will replace your lowest test score if your final exam is better. So if you have a low test score or if you missed an exam, then you can kind of make up those points by doing well on the final exam. The module exams, there's 4 closed book, closed note exams during the semester. You are trusted to make sure that these are closed book and closed note. There's one for each module. The dates are going to be on the class schedule. Make sure you don't miss the deadline because there's no makeup for these exams. If I give a window of a week and a half to take the test and you choose to take it on the last day and something happens in your life that prevents you from taking it that day, you cut yourself off. You had a week and a half to choose when you wanted to take it, but you chose a day that you couldn't take it. There's no makeup for that. Okay, so make sure you understand that. Get into the mindset of if it's due on the 24th, I want to take it on the 23rd. So if something happens, I've got, an extra day of breathing room. There's a strict 75-minute time limit for the exams, at which point the computer will prompt you to tell you that your time is up and you need to submit your exam, and you won't be able to answer any further questions on the exam. So this will happen even if you have technical difficulties. So make sure you're testing from a computer that is reliable and you won't run into this. Generally, for technical difficulties on tests, you have to make it up in the testing center if your instructor permits you to do so. The format of the exams vary, mostly multiple choice, fill in the blanks, very similar to your homework quizzes. So if you work really hard at doing well on the homework quizzes, you're probably going to end up doing well on the tests. The homework quizzes, we talked about this in quite a bit of detail. Let me skim through and make sure there's not missing anything. If you get stuck in a homework quiz on a problem, you have the discussion boards available to you, which I'll show you later on in the video. The discussion boards are a great place for students to communicate with each other and everybody be able to benefit. So the idea is if you have a problem with a question, go to the discussion boards, state where the problem is, what module and what lesson and what number you're working on. Make sure you label your discussion posting that way so that other students can find the questions later on. And describe the problem you're having, and my hope is that other students will kind of chime in and say, hey, I was having the same problem, here's what I did, and this is how I got it correct. If they don't, I'll absolutely chime in as well. Or if an answer is not quite complete, I'll chime in and say, okay, this is great, but this is something you also need to think about as well. So I get in these discussions as well. It's a great way for us all to communicate. But also, after we talk about, Module 1, Lesson 4, Question 10, we don't need to talk about that anymore because anybody who has questions about that can go to that particular discussion posting and see, the discussion if they're having troubles. So students will often email me and say, hey, I'm having problems with this question. And I'll reply back, oh, great. I'm going to move it to the discussion post because I know that other students are going to have this problem and I don't want to answer it 8 times. If I put it if it's in the discussion post, it's answered once, everybody can benefit. Okay? So, videos. We've talked about the videos in a lot of detail as well, but I want to make sure you understand how they're graded so that you get credit for them. So entering your username and an email address at the beginning is essential. You want to make sure you're using the name that's provided, to Trident Tech. And don't use any nicknames or anything because it's checking against the name that's in the system. And the videos, the way they're graded is each night around 9 p.m. I get reports of all the videos that were watched that day. And around 2 a.m., I have a script that runs that downloads all those reports and checks through all the reports looking for each individual person in the class and see what videos they watched and puts that into the grade, or sends me a report at that point, so that the next morning I can go and upload that report into the grade book, and that's the way you get credit for your videos. Now, a couple of hitches that happen occasionally. If you happen to be watching a video at 9 p.m. and if you're like halfway done, then it's going to report what you've watched so far, and it might not be the whole video. And if you watched it from 8:30 to 9:30, it's going to report the half hour that you did watch. And so when you look at your grades the next day, it's going to say 50% F. There's no need to email me at that point, or your instructor, whoever it may be. Wait 24 hours, because those sorts of things generally, the very next time the video report runs, they correct themselves. So 90% of those issues correct themselves. Always wait at least 24 hours before asking about, whether a video was graded properly or not, because it probably was, and you were just maybe watching it when the report run. Who knows? If it's been more than 24 hours and it's still reporting the wrong grade, contact your instructor at that point. When you're watching the videos, sometimes you don't have an hour to sit and watch the whole thing at once, and that's okay. So the timestamps are sent at each of the quizzes. What you want to do is watch a video, and if you want to stop and do something else, stop at a quiz. So watch the video up to the quiz, answer the questions of the quiz, then close the video. It's fine at that point. Once those timestamps are sent, you'll get credit for that part of the video. And then when you start it next time, that quiz is a great place to begin. So you can just kind of jump through the first part of the video up to that quiz and start watching from there. So, you can start and stop. That's perfectly fine. Just do it at quizzes instead of in the middle of the video. Okay. Talked about the midterm and the final. They'll be taken on campus. If you're not near Trident Tech, that's perfectly fine as well. I've had many students in different states, some in different countries, take the course, and we have no issues. You just need to find a college nearby you that has a test proctoring facility, and there's generally a minimal charge for that service. And send me contact information to that testing facility. I'll send them the tests, and they'll administer it, send the results back to me, no problem. It's fairly straightforward. Just make sure you contact me about that early on, because there's often a delay in when I email the contact as to when they contact me back, and then I send the test. So it usually takes a few days to kind of get things set up for the tests. It's better to email now, and then I can go ahead and set up the tests immediately, and then there's nothing to worry about when midterms and finals roll around. If you're taking a test on a different campus of Trident, so for instance, if you take it at Berkeley campus, make sure you email your instructor about that as well, because sometimes there's a delay in the mail courier that sends it between campuses. And so if if you took it the day of the deadline and I don't receive it until the next morning, obviously I'm going to grade it then. But if I didn't know to expect it, I'll enter a 0. And, the initial shock of that can be kind of traumatic. So just make sure you send a note to your instructor, hey, I'm taking it on a different campus. Make sure you wait for my grade and, until entering a 0. That's not warranted. All right, class expectations. Online math courses are tricky. They are more difficult than traditional settings because you don't have that ability to ask your teacher on a daily basis, hey, how do you do this? You can email, but if it works better in a statistics course, but like in an algebra course, it's hard to email, here's how you solve this equation in text. It's kind of difficult that way. 120 I think is a really good course for online because you don't have to worry about a lot of algebraic notation to reply back and forth. I think it's very approachable. You just have to make sure you stay focused. Make sure you're logging in at least every other day. You don't want to miss any important announcements. If there's any emergencies going on with the school, weather-related events, stuff like that, your instructor will be posting announcements about what to do. If the school gets closed, they'll give you instructions on, what the term dates change to and whatnot. Make sure you watch through the video lectures fully. If you don't understand anything, rewatch parts of it, but make sure you watch through the whole thing at least once. It says read through the class notes. There are no more class notes. Sorry about that. Another oversight. And take the quiz. So after you watch the video lecture, take notes from the video lecture and then the quiz afterward, the homework quiz. And keep doing that homework quiz until you get a good score on it. The better you do on those homework quizzes, the better you're going to do on the tests. The better you do on the tests, the better you're going to do on the midterm and the final. So the class is set up for positive reinforcement. If you're not going to see a final exam question you've never seen before. All right. Numbers may be different, people's names may be different, whatnot. But you're going to see it somewhere in the course. And so if you worked throughout all the problems in the course and you worked really hard on each one, when you get to the final exam, there's going to be no surprises. When you get to the midterm, there's going to be no surprises. So it's very much set up for positive reinforcement. Do your work and you'll be fine. Okay? Make sure you don't procrastinate. If you're going to procrastinate, you're going to make things a lot harder on yourself because there's going to be topics that you just don't quite understand. And if you don't give me time or your instructor time to respond to any of your questions because you started all your lessons, the day of the test, and then you plan on taking the test, at like 10 p.m. Well, I might leave and not be able to answer your questions. I might be at home at 6 o'clock and that's when you're asking me a bunch of questions about the test. I'm not going to be able to answer them. So don't procrastinate. Make sure you're working, if not a little bit daily, then, every other day, just do a little bit. Each video lesson and homework quiz that goes along with it, none of them will take a whole lot of time. But if you try and do it all at once, it's going to take an incredible amount of time. So don't procrastinate. If you're struggling, contact me, your instructor. Visit our free tutoring labs. We have a tutoring lab in the 920 building, and we have a computer lab dedicated just to math students in the 300 building that has a tutor, and plenty of available free tutoring, if you're near campus. If you're experiencing test anxiety, we have counselors on campus that can help you out, offer, advice as to how to relieve that test anxiety so you can be as successful as you need to be. The NAA policy. This is really important. So the NAA policy is students that have never attended a course for a predetermined amount of time are dropped from the course, and there is little, if no, way of getting back into the course. So the NAA policy for this course is as follows. You must complete fully the orientation video, which means you got to make sure you enter your name and email at the beginning so that I know that you've watched it. And because if you watch it but you didn't enter your name, enter your name at the beginning, there's no way that I know that you've watched it. So make sure you enter your name at the beginning, and then once you finish the orientation video from start to finish, you're good. You've passed the NAA policy and you won't be removed from the course. The deadline is generally a Sunday at 9 p.m. For this semester only, it's January 19th at 9 p.m., which means if you have not completed the orientation video by 9 p.m. on the 19th, sorry, it's not the 19th. Yeah, the next Sunday is a 17th, sorry. But it's listed in the course calendar and it's listed elsewhere in the class. So anyway, if you haven't completed it by that deadline, you're going to be removed from the class, and there's little or no way of getting back in. Now, that's not to say, hey, make sure you've watched the orientation video, after a week into the course. That's not the deadline for the orientation video. You should have that done the very first day, and you should be very far into the first module. If you haven't completed the orientation video after the first week, you probably don't really intend on taking the class anyway. So it shouldn't be a problem. You should have it already out of the way. If you wait until the day of and you have technical problems, it doesn't matter. You wasted an entire week of class anyway. So do it early, get it over with, and don't get removed from the course. Instructor availability. Your instructor is available to you outside of class for academic assistance. Phone number is supplied, as well as email address on the first page of the syllabus. You're welcome to come by my office whenever you need help. Just call ahead of time and let me know you're coming, and that way I'll make sure I'm there for you. I used to have software that would enable us to meet online, but that's no longer operational. Another thing I need to edit here. I need to get on that, sorry. Attendance and withdrawal. Attendance is basically you watch the videos, you participate in discussions, you take the quizzes. That's attendance. There's no penalty for non-attendance. I mean, if you don't sign in for a week, you're not going to hear anything from me. But if you miss a test date, you're also not going to get an extension, So just make sure you're doing your work as throughout the term. The withdrawal policy, if there's a last date to withdraw, which is posted for each course, it'll be in the course calendar. And if you plan on withdrawing, but you haven't done it by that date, then you'll receive an F for the course. Instructors can't apply a withdrawal for students. You have to do it yourself. Locations of on-campus tutoring is listed here for you. Talking about the calculator next, it's not, only allowed, it's expected. There's a lot of the arithmetic that you just simply aren't going to have time to try and do by hand. So get the right tools, learn to use them correctly, and you should do fine in this course. The rest of this you can kind of read through on your own if you like. There's not much left. Let's move on to a couple more of the course links here that will be useful to you. Frequently asked questions, glossary, links. There's really nothing there. All right. Coursework. Most of this isn't used. Quizzes will take you directly into the quizzes, but we have the links through the course content, which will be a little bit easier for you. So there's actually nothing in the coursework that you need to worry about. Communication tools is where you're going to find the discussions. That's going to be important because, like I said, if you want to ask questions about homework, if it's a Module 1 question, go into the Module 1 homework, start a new thread, make sure you label it, say, Lesson 5, Question 2. All right, and that way everyone knows exactly which question you're talking about, and then describe the problem you're having. Don't just say, how do you do this? Because even I'm not going to respond to that. Or I may respond and just say, well, how are you going about this? So you have to do a little bit of work here. Please don't just post answers. It's fine if a discussion post has an answer, but a lot of times you get so far in the problem, a couple of calculator punches and you've got the answer anyway. But it shouldn't just be an answer. It should be explanation, So if you have questions about the course, when are things happening, that sort of thing, put them in this discussion board. And students often like to introduce to each other. Feel free to do that in the introductions page here. Now, none of these are required. However, these are the types of things where I'm judging, if a student has a borderline grade and they were very active in discussions and helped out students, absolutely, I'm going to move them up. If they were completely vacant in the class and didn't discuss with anybody and, I'm not going to give that student, the next grade. That's really what it comes down to is, how much are you participating? How much do you really care about your grade? Well, if you care a lot, you'll discuss things with each other. The classes that do best altogether are the classes that have the most discussion posts. It's almost a critical thing for a lot of students because, the explanations from other students are often written in such a way that it's a little bit more understandable than if I go through an answer. Because when I go through an answer, I basically say what I said in the video, but and if the video didn't help, then that explanation probably doesn't help either. But, a student might be able to word it in a different way that's a little bit more understandable. So it's important to help each other out there. And that's pretty much everything. The class list could be important if you want to email me, for instance. Like, you can just find me and then hit send email. If you want to know how you're doing in the class, you can hit view progress and it'll kind of give you a lot of detail. Not really grades and stuff, but login information and whatnot. User tools, attendance I don't use in this course. Class progress is what I just said just a second ago. Grades are the important thing here. So, all right, so this is what your grades will look like here. Each of the homework quizzes will have, grades attached to them. And like I said, those update automatically as soon as you finish the quiz. Exams, there's a delay because I want to make sure that I see them first and make sure the grade is correct. The midterm and final, since you're taking them on campus and they're paper exams, it takes time for me to grade them, so those will be delayed as well. The videos are somewhat automatic, but if you watch a video, say at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, then it won't be until Wednesday morning that you see the grade for it. Now, like I said, if you watch the whole thing, but you only see part of the grade, just wait until Thursday morning to see if it updates. It probably will update automatically. And also, if you watch through a video in its entirety and you don't see any grade at all, then you should ask about that. At least after that 24 hours. If after 24 hours you've watched the video and you don't see a grade, then let your instructor know and we can look into it. I had a student who wrote in a nickname all semester, and so he was getting zeros on all his videos, and then finally at the end of the term he's like, how come I didn't get any grades on my videos? First I was like, you should have asked about this a long time ago. But I had to go in and basically manually check each one, and he had watched them all. It's just, it would have been nice to have been able to tell him, hey, make sure you're entering the name that's in the system. That will make sure that you're getting the video grades that you need. And that's pretty much it. I mean, that's the most important links you're going to need here. The course home, where you're going to find announcements, the course content, and the calendar, and then the grades. That's pretty much all you're going to be using in D2L to get around. All these other things, are not really all that necessary. There is an email system within D2L, and if you click here on this email link, it'll take you into that email, and it works just like any other email system, except you can't send it outside of D2L, so you can only send it to other people within D2L. So, it's a bit limited in that way, but, it works just fine otherwise. So if you have any more questions, please feel free to send me a message, or your instructor, that is, and ask those questions, and, we'll get you started in your course, and hopefully you'll have a good experience. Thank you.